It's time for the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, Agent ETA,
Agent Ether,
and Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. We also have an email address, alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to check us out on Discord and Facebook. Links in the description. This week's episode, Skinwalker Ranch.
Hell yeah, the one and only.
This one gets real weird real quick. All right, let's get into it. Also known as the Sherman Ranch or the Gorman Ranch, depending on which sources you're looking. It goes under a bunch of different names, but it's popularly known as the Skinwalker Ranch. What are we talking about? We're talking about a ranch that is 512 acres. What are you doing?
I threw my pen over there because I was making noise with it. I didn't want you to yell at me.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a good move. Good move. All right. So it's 512 acres and it's southeast of Ballard, Utah. It's named after the Skinwalker from Navajo or Ute legends. I found it said online Navajo legends, but it borders like a Ute reservation.
I have info all about that.
Oh, you got us covered on that.
I
Ether.
do.
All right, awesome. Okay, so anyways, the ranch itself is near, like I just said, a bunch of Ute reservations. And apparently there was some sort of feud with them and the Navajo cursed the land. You going to talk about that as well?
Yes.
Agent Ether? Okay, excellent. There were reports of like UFOs and paranormal events in the area for a long, long time before the events that we're going to talk about. I have something from 1978 that I'll get to eventually, but in general, we're talking about the people who, well, we're going to start with, I guess, more or less, the people who bought it in 1994. The ranch itself, there were reports it's kind of like a grab bag of everything strange, right? UFOs, bigfoots, crop circles, ghosts, orbs, cattle mutilation, invisible objects, poltergeists. I mean, it's just anything that we've covered on the show and anything that we might cover on the show has been reported at the ranch, which at first glance kind of makes me go, I mean, come on, really? But when you dig in a little bit, it gets really weird really fast. In 1990,
shop.
What was that?
So it's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. In 1996, it was purchased by the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDSci, for $200,000. And this is a private research organization that was funded by Robert Bigelow, and also, as we'll talk about a little bit later on the show, by probably some government black budget money as well. And they investigated the stuff that was going on there, like cattle mutilations, etc. One of the interesting things I saw with this particular one was that they concluded black triangles were government military craft. And this is a quasi-government organization saying this, which is kind of interesting, right? I mean,
odd.
Are they going to come out and tell us what it is? No, they're not going to. The government's not going to tell us what it is. So why did they say it was? I don't know. It's just weird. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just kind of strange. All right. So, and then after that, it was sold to a shell company called Adamantium Holdings in 2016.
That's kind of a cool name.
Yeah, it's the fictional metal that Wolverine has on his bones and stuff that his claws are made out of, right?
Yeah.
It's not a real thing.
Isn't that trademarked? I mean, can they just use that for their corporation?
Apparently they can. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah. I guess they didn't trademark it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so Adamantium Holdings bought it for $4.5 million. And
wait, at 4.5 when so it went from 200,000, right?
Yeah.
To 4.5 million.
Yeah, so forget the name of the guy who bought it, but he also started a TV show. And here's what I think about, like, I don't think it was actually worth 4.5 million. It was, so Robert Bigelow sold it to one of his billionaire buddies. And I think what this is you can't just give your buddy, like, okay, if I have a contract, you give me that contract and then I'll kick you back 4.5 million. They can't really do that. That's kind of illegal. But they could say, all right, you give me this contract and I'll buy this stupid ranch from you for 4.5 million, and maybe I'll make a TV show out of it too. Why not? Because it might be fun, you know? Yeah. So
well,
I
especially if the History Channel's interested.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what it's on, actually, is the History Channel.
Yeah. So it was, just to make sure, in 1996 when it was sold, was that was for 4.5?
No, 96 was 200,000 when it was sold in 2016.
2016. Okay,
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. All right.
So yeah, Robert Bigelow bought it from Terry and Gwen Sherman. I think I forgot to mention that, but we'll get to them shortly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they sold it to Bigelow for $200,000, and it's in a pretty remote area. You can still, to this day, you can go to these remote areas and buy a whole crap ton of land for practically nothing. Like there's, what was it? Ether, was it 10 acres?
So I looked in the classified ads over there in, what is it? Utah County in Utah, which is where the Skinwalker Ranch is. And you too can own 10 acres near the Skinwalker Ranch. It has 2-track dirt road access, and it's very flat in case you want to park some RVs. Camping's allowed for up to 16 days. And that was in the description, so I'm assuming that's some sort of county limit. And they said in the ad that it's flexible as far as zoning goes, so you can build manufactured homes or create an RV park. And it's 12.5 miles from the ranch, and it's less than 20K.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. For how much land? You said 10 acres?
10 acres. Yeah, 10 acres of property for 20K.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, we can all pool our money, like do a Kickstarter or something.
That would be so cool. You make like a UFO campground there. That'd be badass.
Hell yeah. We can make our own Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, the mini Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, I could come up with a name. Just give me some time.
You have to think long and hard about it, huh?
Yeah. For Skinwalker Ranch? I don't know.
There you go. That's where I knew you were going with that.
Perfect.
But it's not.
Of course, that's where I'm going with it.
So when Adamantium Holding bought it, they put in a perimeter with like barbed wire, armed security guards, and cameras and stuff. But I wonder if that was just for show. I don't know if they still have armed guards there all the time, or if they just did that to sort of, promote the mysteriousness of the place, and then, to kind of boost their TV show. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's that kind of information is exceedingly hard to find. Because, like I said, this is in a fairly remote area, so it's not like people are driving by all the time. But they also closed down all the roads leading to the ranch as well.
It's not open to tourists, I checked.
Well, no, it's definitely not, yeah.
There's been a couple celebrities that have gone there, though.
Oh, yeah. All kinds of people have gone there. I mean, they have had events where people can go there because you see people posting online that they went there. I don't know how you find out about these things, but...
well, it's definitely got to be through either the caretaker or the owner.
Oh, man,
right?
It has to be like Bohemian Grove style.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. That's what we got to start our own Bohemian Grove on that 10 acres. 10 acres is enough. We don't need more than that. We don't need like Bohemian Grove acreage, right?
Yeah.
We got to start. What would we call it?
Alien Conpod Ranch.
Alien Grove?
It's not very original.
No. We'd have to brainstorm, come up with something. All right. Yeah, so the Skinwalker Ranch was first popularized in an article titled Frequent Flyers by Zach Van Eyck in the Desert News, and then later by some articles by George Knapp, and these were all published in 1996. And some of you may remember the name George Knapp. We talked about him, I believe, in a previous episode about, what's his face? That guy who's full of crap. My mind's going blank.
Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar. Thank you very much. I don't know why.
I would assume most people listening are probably going to know that name. I mean, that's one of the more famous names as far as a reporter or whatever you want to call him,
Right. But because of his involvement with Bob Lazar, that just immediately makes me go, I don't know.
Not a fan of Bob, huh?
No, not at all. He's full of crap.
Oh, come on.
If you didn't hear our episode on Bob Lazar, I can sum it up by saying, I think he's either making it up or he's a government disinformation agent or something. I don't know. The story is just weird. It's got too many holes in it.
He is definitely a good storyteller.
Oh, for sure.
And he's pretty consistent, more consistent than most others. But Yeah, there's holes, like you said, but I mean, we have an episode on that, so we don't need to go too far into it, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, let's talk a little bit about Terry and Gwen Sherman. They bought the ranch in the summer of 1994 to raise cattle. It had been vacant for a few years after their previous owners had died and nobody had bought it. And when they moved in, they noticed that
they were award-winning, actually, Angus cattle.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
The cattle that they bought to raise there, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I've been eating a lot of steaks lately.
Yeah,
and,
I figured.
I really appreciate a good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Your boy's getting good. I'm just saying, like, fall apart in your mouth. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's gonna. You know.
Well, I'll have to come out there. I'll have to come out there and partake sometime.
Someone offered to buy you a beer ETA.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, if we have a get together in the Bay Area.
Hell yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
If I can make it up to the Bay Area.
Yeah, that'd be cool. There's actually a couple people that I see online in the Bay Area. But anyways, that is neither here nor there. All right, when the Shermans moved in, they started noticing some weird things. Actually, they started noticing them before they moved in when they were kind of getting the property ready. But when they moved into the house, they noticed that there were some padlocks or bolts on the doors and windows of the house, as if the previous owners wanted to keep something out, like really strange security for a ranch house out in the middle of nowhere on a bunch of acres of land. And then when they moved in, things started to get weird. They witnessed a bunch of different things. So it's called Skinwalker Ranch, but most of what they noticed was actually related to UFOs. One of the earlier stories had to do with some wolves. Would you like to relate that to us, Agent Ether?
Yeah, sure. I think it's when they first moved in, they encountered a big 300-pound wolf. This thing was just 3 times bigger than a big dog. And they had one of their Angus calves was in the corral. And apparently this wolf just came up out of nowhere and snagged at him, grabbed him by the throat. So get this, the father and son go over there and they're trying to beat off the animal.
What? They're trying to what now?
They're trying to beat off the animal. Yeah. But I mean, can you imagine there's this 300-pound wolf and they go over there and they're trying to hit it and get it off their calf?
Yeah,
it's 300 pounds. Really?
That's a big wolf.
So then they're not able to because it's 300 pounds. And so they shoot it point blank several times. This wolf
with a 357.
With a 357. This wolf's totally casual about it. Gives him a look, there's no blood, nothing. And he just trots off. So they go to track it.
Just brushes the dust off his shoulder.
He's like, whatever. And so they go to track it.
Like a damn boss.
And there's these big paw prints. They're like an inch deep. And then they just disappear.
You know what I find really interesting is one of the stories that I heard of this encounter is the wolf. They notice this wolf while they're unpacking stuff out of their truck.
Yeah, that's what I read.
And the wolf actually comes up to him very casually. And one of the stories I heard was that Terry Sherman actually was able to pat the wolf on the head, and right after he did that, the wolf seemed to notice the calf and then make a beeline for it, and that's when he attacked the calf.
This is a crazy story.
Yeah, I know, right? That don't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially because the thing seemed a little like it may have had bloodlust. It's a murderer if it's going to go after the calf and just
maybe they were under some sort of spell.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, and maybe that wolf was not like a real wolf. Maybe it was like a spiritual creature. You know what I mean? Who knows what the hell that could have been? But
I think the implication that it was a skinwalker, right?
Yeah. Because a wolf, I don't know exactly, but a wolf, I don't think at the very largest, it's not going to be over 100 pounds. And I think they're generally more closer to 70 or something. I don't know. But definitely not 300. I don't think that exists in nature.
No, a few weeks later, Gwen Sherman,
not that I know of,
said she was in a car when she encountered a wolf so big that its back went up to her car window.
Wow.
Yeah, and she said it was accompanied by a smaller little dog. She didn't know why.
Little pup.
Well, they're friends.
Just have this mental image, the same wolf with a pet dog. That was when I heard the story, that's what came to mind.
A wolf with a pet.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like it. Okay. All right. So that was one of their earlier stories. But like I said, most of what they saw was actually UFO related. They witnessed 3 types of UFOs that they reported. A small box-like craft with a white light, a 40-foot-long object, and a huge ship the size of several football fields. One craft emitted a wavy red ray or beam of light as it flew. They also saw orbs of light emerging from a circular orange doorway that appeared in the midair, sort of like a gate to another dimension kind of a thing. They were able to get video of 2 sightings, or according to them, they were. I have not been able to find this video anywhere. I would love to be able to find this video, but even so, it was so long ago, it was probably on like some kind of crappy 90s camcorder. It's going to look like just a light in the sky at the very best case, you know. It's not going to look great. They also saw circles of flattened grass 8 feet across, 30 feet apart in a triangular pattern. One night, a flying light followed Gwen home from work. On another encounter, Terry heard, I like this one, this is my favorite. Terry heard voices speaking a strange language. The voices sounded like they were 25 feet above him. The dogs started barking and running around, and then they ran back to the house. So he had these like disembodied voices, and supposedly he sort of talked to the voices. I don't remember what he said exactly, or I didn't see any specific reference to it, but let's say he said like, hey, I can hear you, son of bitches. I can hear you. And then they stopped talking. Then they started talking again or something. I don't know. That's a very strange one, but just imagine you're out, you're on your ranch strolling around at midnight or whatever, and you just hear these disembodied voices that sound like they're coming through a radio. Very strange. So they had a couple of cows disappear. They had 4 cows disappeared, and then they found 3 mutilated. These tended to coincide with sightings. So they would see a UFO, and then later on they would find a cow either mutilated or missing.
Were they radioactive cows?
Oh yeah. So we tried to watch an episode of that History Channel show about the Skinwalker Ranch. The show opens up with a dead cow, which, I mean, that's a horrible way to. I don't want to see dead cows. I like cows. They're cute. I don't want to see them dead. But it opens up with a dead cow lying there on the ground, and then a bunch of guys standing around it or whatever. Then another guy, gets out of a car or whatever and says, "Don't touch him. Don't touch him. He might be radioactive." Radioactive.
Watch out now.
I don't think they understand how radiation works, because you don't need to touch something to be affected by it. You know what I mean?
Well, they're using the Geiger counter.
Yeah.
Right?
They get out a Geiger counter and they're like, "Oh, it's 60. It's 20. It's 35. Oh my God, it's 60." But they're not really saying.
I bought this here Geiger counter from the surplus store down the road. That's how I know it works.
Yeah. But they don't tell you 60 what? Is it like, 60 ohms or,
Rems or rads. Like,
who knows?
No idea. Yeah.
Could be anything. Could be that. What do they call measurements of magnetism?
Gauss?
Gauss, is that what I don't know. They have meters. Yeah. Is it a Gauss? I forget.
Don't ask me, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I ain't going to know.
Yeah. I don't know. It was too much like a reality show for me. I don't like reality shows.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious, but I don't know if I could watch like a whole season of it.
Some people really like it. They're going to do a second season.
Yeah. And then remember, I think Ether fell asleep, but they're all in the boardroom, and they have all these people like scientists and stuff trying to have a conversation with a straight face.
I think they're reenacting it though. It's supposed to be a reenactment, and I hate scripted reenactments. So
it was pretty dang silly.
Yeah. Some people like
whatever it was.
Some people like it.
Yeah, I mean, if
and some people fall asleep while they're watching it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, the people that might like it are probably more. They're also likely to be fans of the Hallmark Channel too, probably.
Oh snap!
Hey, I like the Hallmark Channel.
A little lighthearted romance never hurt anyone.
They're nice, pleasant movies.
You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I should be a little more open.
No, it's the worst thing ever. I'm just kidding.
The Hallmark Channel.
Okay, here's a couple of examples of what they saw. So Terry and his son communicated with one of the UFOs one time. They saw a light move behind a ridge as if it was trying to avoid them. They moved around to see the object and waved their arms at it. It flashed on and off 3 times and then disappeared.
They have some strange things they do when they interact with these objects and the wolf. And
yeah, if I saw a UFO, like an orb that was kind of floating around. If I'd be like, all right, you know what, screw you, I'm going inside and watching TV. Leave me alone, you damn UFOs.
I might watch it, but I wouldn't
eat my cheesy poofs.
Wouldn't wave my hands at it. That's very strange.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of anyone doing that.
I might wave something else at it.
Give it the old whirly bird.
Well, hey, yeah. You do the helicopter, the whirly bird. I mean, that's going to get a reaction. I don't care who you are, you know?
Yeah. All right.
Just saying is all.
Some of their cattle mutilations. So one of their cows, they found it dead in a field with a strange hole in the center of its left eyeball. It had no other wounds or marks, and there was no blood. There were no prints or tracks anywhere near it.
Chupacabra.
Could be.
Yeah. And all its intestines were removed through the butthole.
I didn't find that on this particular description, but hey, who knows? I might have missed that
I might have
part.
just made that up right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
They also smelled a strange chemical odor in the area. Later on, they found another dead cow, and this one had the same hole in its eye and also a 6-inch wide, 1-inch deep hole. I should do a warning. This is about to get gross, people. A 6-inch wide, 1-inch deep hole carved out of its rectum. Again, there were no tracks, and the chemical smell was present.
One thing I remember hearing in one of the descriptions is like they said that the chemical smell reminded them of like disinfectant.
Like pine
Did you hear
sol.
that?
Did it have a lemony scent?
They didn't really describe the scent, but one of the accounts that I heard said like the chemical smell was like reminiscent of like some strong disinfectant or something like that. You might use like in an industrial like application.
Huh, weird. Yeah, and the descriptions, all the cows they found apparently had all their blood drained out of them. So I guess if you're draining blood, you might use disinfectant, I guess, to drain it.
Well, yeah, and plus they're dead. They're dead now. They don't need that blood.
No, heck no. They don't need it. They're just being greedy if they're trying to keep it. At least that's what I always say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Another dead cow they found. Okay, well, actually, that was the only... I mean, there's more mutilations. I don't want to talk about those, though, because they're grody. They found a cow that had disappeared from the snow. They followed the tracks, which led into a field, and stopped near some trees. There was a circle of broken twigs and branches where the tracks stopped, and the tops of the trees above looked like their tops were cut off. And there were no other tracks in or out of the area, and it looked like the cow had just disappeared, like as if it just been lifted up into the air or something. And there's a couple other disappeared cows too that are sort of like this, where they just sort of vanish. And a cow's pretty dang big. You're not going to be able to lift it up without some kind of machinery or a truck or something, right?
Oh yeah, it's going to leave a trail wherever it's going.
Yeah.
You know, the one kind of disappearance that really bothered me, just because I'm a big fan of dogs, and like there's so many cool breeds of dogs out there, right? So that one scenario where I guess Sherman's dogs like started barking at something in the woods, and they like chased after it, and he chased after those dogs in turn, and then found 3 different like clumps of like first he heard the dogs like yelp, and like gave I guess you could say a bit of like a death scream, you know, as far as dogs do.
I don't like these kinds of stories.
Yeah, he found 3 different. Well, yeah, well, no, I mean, but you got to remember those dogs, though. You know, I bet they were good dogs. You know,
well, they had to have been.
But yeah, he had these dogs to protect livestock and protect his land and stuff. You know, the home. But he found like these dogs with like circles around each like lumped mass of like meat and like mush. I guess it was described. Like, to me, that if I was the dog owner and I found that, it's war. This means war. Now something else, like whatever did this, something needs to die. You know what I mean? Like that's going way too far. Let alone like, mutilating your prize winning Angus cattle. I mean, that's bad enough. But the dogs, man, you got to go after the dogs? Are you kidding me? That's too far.
Yeah, but who are you going to go after? You're going to go after the government, aliens, skinwalkers. Like, there's so many options.
The Bigfoots.
Whatever the hell presents itself first.
Well, yeah, whatever target you find.
I will blame. I'll blame some. I might see a cougar or something like that, out in the middle of the field or something, and I'm
Cougars
just
in
gonna
Utah?
go ahead and shoot it because, yeah, I don't know, man. Like panther.
Yeah.
They got mountain lions over there, don't they?
Yeah, one of them invincible grizzly bears from Red Dead, right?
No, I'm pretty. Oh yeah. One of the legendary ones.
I hate those
No,
things.
I'm pretty sure they have mountain lions over there.
Yeah, actually, I think they do. They have mountain lions, but I read that wolves were surprisingly not indigenous to the area, which, I mean, I don't know if I believe that because they're apparently seen commonly on the ranch. So that means that they're
really?
there, whether or not they're supposed to be, right?
There's
Well,
reports
are
of all
they
kinds
wolves?
of exotic animals, though, like hyenas.
Huh.
I don't think hyenas are native to that area either.
I think aren't hyenas native to
Yeah.
Africa somewhere?
Yeah. I don't know. They were in The Lion King.
Yeah, they were. Same as this. Mufasa. Ooh, say his name again.
I just watched that the other day.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah. Oh, baby, my childhood wouldn't have been the same without that movie. I mean, all the different sexual things that Disney like hid in that movie,
Yeah.
like the clouds and stuff. All
Yeah, that one. I mean,
you ever
that's
seen that? I don't know if you've seen that, but
that's pretty common in some of those movies. Like The Little Mermaid has also got some pretty bad stuff in it.
or Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I remember when I was younger and I heard about that scene where Miss Roger Rabbit, whatever, Mrs. Flies out of the taxi and does a little spinny brew. I actually found an old VHS copy of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I spent I don't know, 2
A
hours
long
probably,
time.
like freezing it to catch that one particular frame.
Were you able
And
to?
let me tell you, it was there. It was there. Yes. Yes.
Well,
Well, mind you,
actually-
this is an old this is this is a VHS from one of the original releases. And I can tell you, yeah, there's a frame there that I was like, oh my.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they definitely drew that. Somebody took the effort to draw that.
It's not like
It's awesome.
I looked this up like a couple months ago because I remember hearing about it. And then when I heard about it, obviously I didn't have the internet. So it just, for whatever reason, it randomly popped into my head. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and Google this now just to see, is this a real thing? And it turns out, yeah, like you were saying, it is. And I saw the picture of it. And it's, I'll say that she's definitely a fan of Brazil, but also it's not like super, super descriptive, it's not like
No.
that. It's not like that
But
exciting.
it's there.
But it is there.
It's
It
there,
is
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little on the subtle side. Okay, hold on just a second.
All
Time
right, we
out.
got to take a quick time out.
Actually, I don't think we mentioned yet. We're testing out this week doing the show live on Discord. So we'll see how it turns out. It appears to be working. And so a couple of people have been requesting us to do a live show. So I said, yeah, what the heck? We'll try it out. So I turned on my computer earlier and it just so happened coincidentally, I don't know if it happened today, but I go on Discord occasionally to check on there. And when I signed on to get a channel set up on our Discord to do the live show, I got a pop-up saying we just now implemented this new thing called stages or whatever. So they made a thing on Discord to do live shows. This is our first time using it. I didn't make an announcement because I didn't know if it was going to work or not, but we'll see. We have one fan right now. It's a big audience, but we didn't announce it, so I didn't expect a lot of people to pop in.
One
here,
of our other fans said he had to go, but he'll be back.
Oh yeah, okay. So we have Mashuka listening right now. Shout out to Mashuka. Thanks for joining us.
You are a legend, sir.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so hopefully it works out and we will continue to do live shows because it's more fun that way. And what I want to do is I want to put maybe a chat channel so that if while we're doing the show, people can type in questions to us or something. We might not be able to get to all of them or during the entire show because it would kind of
Ruin the flow.
yeah, if we were doing it the whole time, it would be hard to get through all of the material to, for the episode. But it would be maybe do a section of the episode at the beginning or end where we can, I don't know, have some sort of, people asking us questions or some sort of interaction or something. I don't know. I haven't fleshed it out entirely.
Back to the show.
All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah. And now it's time for the show. Okay, so I just had one more thing about the mutilations and disappearances.
Ugh.
There's a couple more ranches in the area, and there have been reports of cattle mutilations and disappearances for decades and before the Shermans moved in. So they're not the only ones to report this. And I just wanted to throw that in there because on the surface, the Shermans, they don't seem super credible to me. And in fact, they do seem like they kind of just made it all up. Some skeptics think that the Shermans invented the story to sell the ranch, which like, okay, like if I was going to try to sell my house, that's the last thing I would do to try to get interest in it, is to tell people all this messed up stuff is happening. But also I wanted to mention briefly that a local science teacher, he was a teacher at one of the local middle schools named Joseph Hicks, had personally investigated over 400 UFO sightings over the years, over a couple of decades in the area. And there have been thousands of reports in the the Uintah Basin, I guess is the general area is what it's called. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well, is that the Shermans were not the only people reporting UFOs. It kind of makes me wonder because, that would be prime real estate for the government to put, test facilities, right? Secret Nevada and Utah and just like all that deserty area where there's a lot of remoteness. There's not necessarily a whole lot of population there.
Or water.
Yeah. Well, they're the government, man. They can build pipes to go there.
I'm just saying, that 10-acre property, I don't know, with global warming and stuff, you're going to buy that 10-acre property and then there's not going to be any water.
Well, campers will bring bottled water. Right?
A little goes a long way.
All right. So I think Agent Ether had some stuff on skinwalkers. Would you like to educate us a little bit, Agent Ether?
Skinwalkers. Yes. So skinwalkers go back some time. There's like ancient rock carvings and paintings and those sort of things in the area that depict them from way before the curse, way before the Utes even settled the area. So they're not something that are new. Let's see, they can be shape-shifting, right? They're supposed to be witches, Navajo witches. They're definitely evil. They're not supposed to be good. They're kind of the opposite of medicine men. And they're associated with mind control. Like if you look into the eyes of your victim, you can then enter your victim and control them. They inherit animal traits like speed and cunning. What?
That's almost like you ever looked into the eyes of a man during his vinegar strokes?
I don't even know what that means. Do I want to know what that means?
No.
Okay, I don't want to know what that means.
But you can see into the depths of his soul.
Moving right along.
I'll just say, like, the noise I usually make is probably more akin to like something like that. You know what I mean? Like pretty similar.
Well, thanks. Now I'm stuck with that forever.
Sorry about that. Not sorry.
I just wanted to throw in there real quick that it's not just the Navajo, but apparently also the Pueblo, Apache, Ute, and Hopi, and possibly other tribes.
Hey, I'm all over that.
Oh, you're all, okay. Never mind. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Lots of tribes, all in like the Southwest area, have legends of the skinwalkers. Like it's part of their culture, and they don't even really consider it supernatural like we would, because it's just part of their folklore. So it's a little different how they view it versus how we would view it. And that whole area, though, is known for the skinwalkers. For 15 generations, the stories go back about them. And outside of the Sherman Ranch area, there's an area called the Path of the Skinwalker, and Native Americans were taught just to avoid that area altogether. So going back to properties and traits of the skinwalkers, I read that their eyes actually turn red in the light when they're animals, but then when they're humans, it looks like they have animal-like eyes, and they can be werewolves.
Well, I think I just want to stop you right there, though, because animals, their eyes can reflect at night. They can reflect light and look really, really weird.
Yeah.
Like sometimes my little tiny dog makes me crap my pants because, you see the light.
With his one eye.
Yeah, you see the light reflecting off his eye just under the right angle.
Like, wait a minute. Wait one freaking minute.
What the hell is that?
All 10 pounds of them.
Oh, it's just my dog.
But a lot of times these skinwalkers will transform into wolves. I think that's the most common animal. And some people say that this is where the legend of werewolves comes from in America, is from the Skinwalkers. So there's kind of the lore, not just among the Native Americans, but if you think about it, werewolves are kind of a story that exists in multiple places.
Right.
So I kind of thought that was interesting.
Werewolves of London, baby.
Yeah, I mean, that just made me think of that. So
Excellent movie.
these Skinwalkers can walk among the tribes by day, and you wouldn't even know who they were. They can cause harm and curses, and they have dark rites and rituals for both their initiation and for their, activities.
What sort of activity?
Well,
I like the way you said that. What kind of activities are you talking about here now?
I read all sorts of things. And then at some point, I'm like, this is really dark. I don't know if I want to be reading this. Like using human bones for their rituals and, how to become a skinwalker. Like some of the descriptions of the things that they had to do, like killing a close relative and skinning them in front of like an elder skinwalker. I mean, really graphic stuff. But every story I read was different from the other story. One ritual involved like saying chants, but it could be in your native language. It didn't have to be like in, Navajo or anything. And you like drew a circle around you and you faced a certain direction and you basically said, hey, I want to be a skinwalker. But if you didn't do the ritual correctly, you would die the next day.
Shit.
But it's different. Like every account that I read was different. And I don't know, maybe slightly offensive towards Native Americans, because I doubt very strongly that this was coming from like, someone who's Navajo or Ute.
Right. In fact, I read that I was trying to find out more about the Skinwalkers, but there's not really a whole lot available because apparently Native Americans don't like to talk about them. And I guess even talking about them can bring about bad luck or increases the chances of their appearance. And they don't like to discuss them with outsiders. So it's a topic, like we know a lot about Native American culture because they've shared that with the world, but this is one topic that they're not really willing to share with the world. So probably what we know is based on just what a couple of people have been willing to share, but it's probably not the whole story.
Also, I want to apologize if any of this is offensive. It doesn't mean that I, believe all of it. If we're getting it wrong, we're not experts in Native American culture. This is just, stuff I found on the internet that I found that was interesting. So we mentioned a little bit about the curse, the Skinwalker Ranch curse. So I guess what happened is before the Ute were moved to a reservation, they were like a very warlike tribe that often fought alongside the Navajo against like common enemies. But later on, during the Civil War, they would drive the Navajo off their lands. And even before that, they would sell them to the slave block. So after the whole, Trail of Tears thing with the Navajo, which was, really terrible, the Ute believed that the Navajo cursed them with the Skinwalkers, the curse of the Skinwalkers.
And I believe that the area that their ranch is on is believed to be part of that curse, right? Yeah,
that's correct. I mean, it used to be Navajo and Ute land.
Yeah, so the land itself is cursed.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yo, Agent Kruger.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
All right.
Man,
I'm late.
doing it well.
I'm late. I know.
Better late than never. Welcome home.
Jinx, I beat you.
Party time. Excellent.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be home.
Yeah, we're talking about
make it.
The Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, did we put the lotions on the Skinwalker Ranch yet?
Oh boy.
Oh, we did not. Did
it
apply
get
the
the
lotions
hose
yet,
again?
no.
Do you want me to flag this? Is this an edit?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I mean, I'll probably just edit this whole section out,
I just like pushing the flag button.
Oh, yeah, it's fun, huh? It's nice, satisfying click to it.
The what button?
Let's try that again. Welcome, Agent Kruger, who is arriving late because he was busy partying in San Diego.
I'm sorry, but necessities. I'll declassify the information later.
Hey, man, I ain't gonna hate on you at all for that. Like, sometimes a party's got to be had, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it must be had.
Agent Kruger, we're doing it live for the first time. Got some requests, and it just so happens that I signed on to Discord to start up a voice channel for it, and they just introduced a feature for exactly what I was trying to do. So we're doing it live.
Hey, there we go. I like it.
Big Brother was paying attention to you, and you just
Now
let
that's
you know.
creepy. What if the computer?
Oh boy! Wait, we're talking about live. Yeah, no, we're talking about live tentacle porn here.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. Discord cares about me so much that they surveil me, and then they heard me talking about a feature that I wanted, and then they added that feature. That would be awesome, actually.
I don't know, dude. I'll be talking about something, and then it will show up on my phone, like in my news feed as a topic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Oh, no.
interested in.
It's getting more predictable for me. It's like before I have an ailment, it's recommending me like, solutions for something that hasn't hit me yet. And then like a week later, I get it. I'm like,
dick pills. I don't talk to anybody about that.
It's like dentist. It's like, no. What do you mean this fruit that will do wonders for me?
Yeah, you start getting paranoid.
10 inches.
Yeah, I start getting paranoid. Sometimes you'll see an advertisement for like cancer treatment. Like, cancer treatment? What the? I don't have cancer, do I? Oh shit!
Right? Yeah, or like dentures. You're like, oh shit. Gotta go to the bathroom, brush my teeth.
Yeah.
I just noticed that the name that I have right here is Agent ETA. Like it's not. There's no space. I didn't put any space there.
Oh yeah.
Why did I do that?
I don't know. You can change it though.
Can you?
Yep.
But like
but
mine,
maybe not right
it's
now.
more official. That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to change my name to Driving Force Galleon.
There you go.
Okay.
Operation Driving Force Galleon.
Yes.
All right, let's get back to the Skinwalker Ranch. Okay, were you done with your bit on Skinwalker's Agent?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, cool. So I had some stuff on that, but I'll go ahead and skip past it. Now let's talk a little bit about Robert Bigelow. This is the guy who bought it from the Shermans. Now, this is a really...
Can I say something real quick?
I don't know.
Does that
Please
name
do.
not sound like I don't know, maybe like the director of a porno movie?
Yeah, I was
or something?
actually
Like-
thinking that myself.
Well, it would be so much better if his name was Richard Bigelow. That would be like 1,000 times better.
Yes. Yes, it would.
But Robert's, it's not a bad second, it's okay. So
That's close.
He's a billionaire that owns the Budget Suites of America. And if you've ever driven around America, I'm sure you've seen these hotels. It's a hotel chain, and they pop up once in a while. And he also owns Bigelow Aerospace. He created Bigelow. This is actually a really interesting company, Bigelow Aerospace. He created it to make like a space station hotel. And they did some test launches. And the idea is rather than launch something like the space station that's made out of metal, they designed like modular inflatable rooms, basically, which is like a really good idea. Because if you think about it this way, it doesn't matter what it's made out of. If you get hit with some debris, if it's inflatable, it could be like a balloon or it could be built out of titanium or whatever. If it gets hit by debris up there, it's toast. It's a hole's going right through that thing. But an inflatable module would be much lighter to construct and to get into space. So it's a really interesting solution to a problem of how do we make this cheaper to get it into space, right? So they were working on it. They're supposed to have like a working hotel by like 2022 or 2023, something like that. But recently, they said online because of COVID, they laid off all of its employees.
Oh,
I guess. So I don't know that it didn't say the company's out of business, but they might be on a hiatus, which I was kind of bummed out because so it's supposed to be, it costs $5 million to go up there for a weekend or something, which I'll never be able to afford that. But here's the thing. I couldn't afford the first iPhone either, right? But eventually, first, whenever you have a new technology, it's generally targeted towards like rich people, like cell phones in the 80s, right? Or car phones in the 80s. Generally, just rich people had those. And then eventually everybody else got them, right? So if they have space hotels, he does it first. It costs $5 million at first, but eventually they figure out how to make it cheap enough for the rest of us. Because, man, if they had a space hotel and it was like reasonable, I'd be there, man. Even if it was like $10,000 for a weekend, I'd figure out how to make that happen,
Dude, you just made me feel so old right now. Like, I remember when they were called. I remember when they were called car phones. Like they weren't cellular
Right.
phones. You're like, dude, that guy's got a car phone, bro. Hey, and like, hey, what's your pager number? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna hit you up. You know, fucking,
I had a pager.
I'm gonna
at
hit you
one
up on your
point.
pager, and then you gotta hit me up on the fucking public phone or something like that if you don't have one yourself. You
Yeah.
know?
I was always given my hand-me-down pager.
So
That's so fun.
I think we need to explain what a pager is for all of the young
Oh,
people
the
out there.
youngins.
Yeah, you might not know what this is. So the pager was it was about the size of like a little matchbox, not the big matchbox, so just a little box. It was like a little plastic thing with a little screen on it that you would clip to your belt or whatever. And if somebody wanted to contact you, they would page you, right? They would call your pager, and then the pager would go ding, ding, ding. This phone number just called you. Then you would have to walk your ass over to like a public payphone.
A payphone.
By the way, they used to have this thing called payphones where you'd walk up, you'd put quarters in, and then you'd dial the number
From your pager.
that you got from your pager because somebody just paged you, and you would call them. So that's a pager. Google it to see what they look like. It was pretty neat back in the day. We were all really excited about them, especially drug dealers. But let's get back to the show. All right. So I was excited about those inflatable thingamajigs up in space, but it looks like it's going to be delayed indefinitely, unfortunately. But hopefully somebody makes that happen soon. His origin story, I should say, is kind of interesting. At a young age, he knew that he wanted, Robert Bigelow we're talking about here, he knew that he wanted to travel the stars, but he also knew that he was kind of a dummy. So he decided instead of becoming a scientist, he would become rich, and then he would pay people to do it for him. That was his plan as a kid. What kind of kid thinks like this, man?
Hey, think smart, right?
Yeah, think smart, not hard.
Work smart, not hard.
But-
yeah.
But apparently this is why he was so motivated to become rich was to, like, he didn't want to be rich for the sake of being rich. He wanted to get rich so he could go to space. That is awesome. You know, I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, but that was it. I didn't have a game plan. I didn't have any way of doing it. I was like, that'd be cool to be an astronaut, and that's what I want to be when I grow up. It's like, but I didn't think what step 2 was. Step 1 was I want to be an astronaut. Step 2, that was not even on my radar. So I'm just really impressed.
Do you know what I wanted to be when I was a kid?
What?
Mad Mardigan from Willow.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, who didn't, right?
Mad Mardigan, you are great.
You are great. That's such an awesome movie.
They stole the baby.
Robert Bigelow's where this starts to get a little weirder though, because he's really in. So first of all, he's a weird dude. He doesn't have emails or cell phones or anything like that. He doesn't even really like banks.
Does he have a pager?
He might. I don't know. He uses like fax machines and like landlines and stuff.
Ooh, paranoid.
And, like he's paranoid, like old school. Like I said, he doesn't use email. He likes to pay people in cash. You know, he's a real weird dude. But he's also really into the paranormal as well. He's super into UFOs and like researching ghosts and afterlife and stuff like that. But he also has ties to Senator Harry Reid, who I don't think is still a senator, but he was at one time. It's kind of hard to find information on him. He's almost never had any he's spoken publicly a few times. You can find it on YouTube, but it's pretty rare for him to do any sort of public speaking. Not necessarily unusual. There's a lot of like billionaires that don't like to be in the public light. Only a handful of them do. Most of them seem like they want to be left alone, but I don't know how many of them are there out there.
And the
really?
most depressed people, right? I mean,
Oh,
people
sure.
with the most money are the most depressed. for some
Sure.
odd
I want to
reason.
be depressed.
I like to
Yeah,
think
right.
that too. It makes me feel better about not being a billionaire.
Right? I got a real life.
Yeah. I don't need yachts and private airplanes. Those suck. I don't want those. Okay.
How about a yacht with a swimming pool? That's
yeah.
always
How
like
about-
redundant.
How about a private yacht that is a submarine?
I know.
That'd be so
right?
cool. All right. Okay.
Back
anyways,
to Skinwalker Ranch.
back to Robert Bigelow. So he's said, for example, that he believes aliens exist and that they have visited Earth. So this guy, he's kind of like Dan Aykroyd level, you know, as far as like this stuff kind of goes. But he has money. He has money to back it up. So he started the ATIP, which bought the property. I guess he bought it through ATIP, or it's a little murky exactly how it worked. but there appears to be some sort of government funding that's involved as well. And like I said, Senator Harry Reid was involved, and it kind of ties together. This, like I said, this gets weird. The further you look, the more there is to dig up. The Skinwalker Ranch connects to a lot of different other things. So, for example, a lot of the people that worked for ATIP, once that ended, so that ATIP ended, I forget what year, but some of those people went on to work for To the Stars Academy, like the Tom DeLonge stuff, and they're real big on like those Tic Tacs and stuff, which that's a whole other episode, so we won't really get into that.
I know, it's just like ETA tip. Like, that's a whole nother issue right there.
Yeah. All right, so I have some stuff that
Sorry, I can't help myself.
I have some stuff that I can skip here. So I wrote down a bunch of stuff that's actually been seen over the years on the ranch. So I guess I'll skip those because she's getting a little antsy over here.
No, it's so much material.
No, it is so much material. It's hard to get through it all. But I do want to talk.
Well, keeping on the Bigelow tip here.
Yeah,
I did find it hilarious. I thought, at least in 1996, actually one of my favorite skeptics, James Randi, the Amazing, right? He awarded Bigelow with an award. That basically said that he awarded him with what was it, the funding organization, support. It was the most useless study of a supernatural paranormal event or something like that, right?
Yeah, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. That guy will have to. He'll have egg on his face when I'm done. I'll tell you what.
Ooh.
Egg on your face, sir. Here's the thing.
Yeah. Ha on you.
Here's the thing with the skeptics. I'm definitely willing to entertain something, and I'm actually skeptical about a lot of the topics that we have. I come at it from sort of a neutral position. I don't necessarily believe it. But the thing I don't like about people who are self-described skeptics is they really, really love this ad hominem or attacking the person, right? They don't like to discuss the topic at hand. They like to say, well, you, sir, are a piece of shit because you looked into this, right? And that just kind of bothers me. And the reason it bothers me is because a lot of people see a lot of weird stuff. Just because you can't explain it doesn't mean that you didn't see it, right? And a perfect example is something I've talked about on a previous episode is the Paulding light. The Paulding light, to summarize, is a light that a lot of people have seen. You can go look at pictures on the internet right now. It's readily available, like pictures, videos, whatever. It's a thing. Turns out that it's explainable. But if you saw it and you didn't, the explanation is kind of weird. So the people are 100% seeing a weird thing. But a skeptic would say, oh, these people are all crazy. They're on drugs, whatever. If you didn't have photographic evidence of this and you didn't have so many people and you didn't have proof of it, and you hadn't, so it was pretty recently that they figured out what it actually was, like maybe even in the 2000s, right? Before that.
Yeah. Well, so it had to do with light refraction from what I understand, right?
So there's like an inversion layer that bends the light around so people can see it when they shouldn't be able to. But the point is that skeptics like to make fun of people and try to make people feel bad for seeing something. It's not their fault that they saw something. They saw something weird and they should be able to talk about it. You shouldn't feel weird or feel guilty or feel bad about talking about something that you've seen, and you shouldn't be considered crazy or on drugs or something, right? People see weird stuff all the time. I've seen weird stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 or 4 UFOs. I'm not convinced any of them were aliens. It was just something I didn't know what it was.
Hey, you were considered a witch just for lighting a candle a certain way back in the day. You know what I mean? So it's we come a long way.
So this is from 1978. There's a lot of UFO sightings in the area, but this one I found in a newspaper article from 1978. And I just wanted to talk about this one briefly, just to give an example of what some other people in the area have reported. So a kid named Dale Wood, age 13, saw a large silver object. He heard a noise that sounded like a well-tuned engine, and he looked up to see a silver dome-shaped object. It was surrounded by an intense green light, jagged-like flames around the edges. It stopped and hovered directly above him. He saw lights on the underside of the object. He could no longer hear it as it hovered overhead for a few minutes. He felt like he was being watched and was afraid. When the object began to circle overhead, he ran to get his brother in a nearby house. The air conditioning and TV turned off suddenly inside the house. Dale's mother, who was also in the house, tried to get them back on but couldn't. The dogs began whining like they heard a noise that was inaudible to people, like a dog whistle or something. Dale's mother and siblings went outside and they saw the UFOs circle the area before speeding off to the northeast. There were other witnesses to this event as well, such as a police officer and other nearby residents. And that's a pretty brief description of it. I kind of like trimmed it down a bit, but I mean, that's just one of many, many examples. Unfortunately, a lot of the witnesses did not have anything that you can find really, but it's a hotbed though. It's definitely a hotbed.
I was like when they described like it went to the northwest.
Yeah.
I have no sense of direction. I'd have to like go outside and point. It went that way.
That away.
That way. Over there.
Over there yonder, yeah.
But I just had one more topic to talk about. Did you have anything else, Ether?
No.
Did you really? Or are you just saying that?
No, I really don't have anything else.
Okay. You sure?
Don't give me a funny look.
I didn't really have a whole lot of other topics I want to talk about. I mean, tentacle porn was one of them, but we didn't really touch on that. And I don't think that's really like, it's probably not going to relate that all that
We'll
much
get back
to this
into
topic.
it.
So.
That's another episode.
We'll get there eventually. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, maybe do that. Maybe do that special edition tentacle porn. Yeah.
We should
do
take
a complete episode.
Yeah, a whole episode on it. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm going to pull our
polls are great
listeners
too.
and see how many are interested in this topic. And if it's more than 10, I say you can do the episode.
I know what you're thinking there, Agent
Yes!
ETA.
Yes. I tell you what, if even like 25% of our listeners are into like anime, like Japanese anime, the way I am, like yeah, they'll be interested. Yeah, for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah. I doubt the number's that high, but there might be one or two,
We're all a bunch of sinners. Like we don't always put ourselves out there, you know what I mean? But like they're there. Yeah, we're all there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. All right. So
whatever. Okay.
Let me get to my my last topic here because we're getting a little long on the episode. I'll get through this again. Well, hey, that's not a bad thing necessarily, right?
Hey, we're having fun. At least I am.
We're at an hour 23 right now, but some of the definitely going to edit out some of that. So might edit out as much as 20 minutes. We'll have to see. But anyways, I listened to the podcast, The Black Vault Radio, which is a podcast done by John Greenwald Jr., who runs The Black Vault. And if you've ever researched any of these topics, you probably have run across him. It's the biggest repository for government documents. He's really into the FOIA requests. So if you want to check out documents on anything we're talking about, that's a good place to look. Not just this topic, but any topic. He's got like blog articles and all kinds of crazy stuff on there. I think there's even some forums, although they're not super active. But anyways, on season...
I got real excited there for a second because I thought you said suppository.
Oh, no. Nope, no suppositories.
I digress.
So on his podcast, on season 1, episode 46, he had a guest named Chris Marks. Now, Chris Marks claimed to have worked for Bigelow Aerospace. So his story is basically he worked for the military, he worked for the police, and then after he did a couple of tours of duty in Iraq, he got hired as like a private contractor kind of a deal, working for Bigelow Aerospace to do a job on the ranch. And if you want the details of his employment and stuff, go listen to the episode. We don't have time to get into all of that stuff here. But the way his job worked was that he would, at first they sent him on a deployment, like a 2-week deployment with one other person on the ranch. And he worked there from 2010 to 2015. And eventually he was doing a single person deployment. So he was just there all by himself. But for 2 weeks at a time, man, I don't know. That does not sound like a lot of fun, right? His job was apparently to investigate all the paranormal things on the ranch. Now this is done. So I say Bigelow Aerospace he said is who he worked for. And on the episode, John Greenwald Jr., if anybody knows who he is, he's not one to really suffer any sort of fools. And he's real stringent on his like requirements. So he said that Chris was able to send him like documents proving that he actually worked for who he said he worked for. And I guess it's possible to fake any of this stuff, but if it's good enough for John Greenwald, it's good enough for me. I'll just leave it at that, I guess. Because that's his thing. He does documents. That's what he's all about, right? But anyways, while Chris worked at the ranch, he said that while he was investigating stuff, that he did have paranormal experiences, like poltergeists and stuff, where they would move his crap around in his room when he wasn't there. And this was funded, apparently, like it came out later after he was no longer working there, that he found out that this was funded by like the DIA and by OSAP, which is like a military thing that's sort of like related to ATIP, which is sort of related to, Bigelow's project, which this is what I mean when I say this stuff gets real weird real quick and it starts to tie into a lot of other things. And we're only scratching the surface on this episode, by the way. So if you want to dig into this to yourself, it's pretty far reaching. But anyways, I'll talk about Chris specifically. I won't go on too many tangents here. But the point of this is it was so secretive that he didn't even know who his employers were when he was working for them. He didn't find out until after the fact who was actually paying him, right? This whole thing is just really weird. And by the way, I'm not talking about, some kind of weird, paranormal researcher who's into all this stuff. We're talking about like a military contractor here, right? Who was tasked with investigating the strange things on the ranch.
I'm wondering why he would agree to this kind of a contract, though. Don't you think that's kind of strange?
Well, so he said, the job required a security clearance, and they wouldn't tell him what the actual job was before he accepted it, because you can't get the security clearance for the job until after you got the job, and they can't tell him what it is because it's classified. Then
how would you even know it existed?
Well, he talks about it on this episode of the podcast of the Black Vault Radio, which, again, if it's classified, he shouldn't be able to talk about it, right?
It's very strange.
The whole thing's really weird. The guy seems very convincing.
Yeah, that's so odd.
But it's all just really strange, right?
That's how they like it, though.
This is one of the strange things, is that when you're deployed on the ranch, there was no supervision. You had to write daily reports, but you could write almost anything. And it was just basically some people would just sit there and binge watch. The example he gave on the show was people would just sit there and binge watch South Park or something for 2 weeks and then go back and collect a paycheck, right?
I would be so bored.
Yeah.
With South Park? Are you kidding me?
I don't watch a lot of TV.
What about Man Bear Pig?
I did see that one.
What about the basket?
We're totally serial, all right?
Yeah, what about the basket weaving?
What about Pink Eye?
Whoa.
Pink Eye's still my favorite episode.
Well, I keep hearing The Ranch, and I keep thinking of Dr. Phil. So, like, I'm just waiting for Dr. Phil to pop up in this.
Okay, so there was a whole thing about a medical study, but I won't go into that. They go into it again on the show. I'll skip over some of that because I don't know how relevant it is. I'll talk about the weird stuff. So as his deployment went on, he started to see a lot of paranormal things. But after everything was over, after he was done with his deployment at the ranch, and reflecting back on it, he says that he started to think that he was the experiment. He was not the one performing the experiments, but he was the one being experimented on, right? And he gives reasons for that on the show. I won't go into too much on that, but he did say that people saw a fella named James Lakatsky on the ranch, who was the project director for OSAP, which is basically it may or may not be the same thing as ATIP, which again we don't want to go into because that's like really far afield, but that's a whole other thing. We should probably do an episode on some point. But he thinks that they were testing like cloaking devices and bidirectional mimicry, which is, a one way of cloaking or invisibility. And whatever the experiments were, he thinks it had something also to do with fear and aggression response, with the idea being to eliminate fear and increase aggression to create a super soldier. And one interesting thing he talks about on the show is that he was supposed to be there to perform experiments, right? But he says that the equipment he was given was really subpar. There was very little equipment, and what he was given was stuff like consumer level cameras or gas station quality flashlights, basically not the quality that you would expect for like a military grade experiment. Usually they have very high quality gear, right? But he was given almost no gear at all. He was given a very little budget for food or gas. He had to, he said after a certain point, you drive around the ranch a little bit, because he had to drive around the ranch to do like his duties and stuff, and to like check to make sure nobody was sneaking on and whatnot. He said he had to pay for his own gas to perform his service, which is just insane that they would, nickel and dime him so much, right? We're talking about like a black budget funded project here, which is crazy. So he talked about some things that they had him do, like playing Ouija, and this is kind of where it gets weird too. So he says one time they were using a Ouija board to try to do an experiment, and the planchette lifted up and flew at him and hit him in the chest, and he moved around the table, and it did it a couple times. And he says like he says, I know it sounds crazy, but it happened. And he says he has it on, like, they recorded it on video, which, I was not able to find this video available on the internet, so I'll say I'll believe it when I see it, right? But
I'm on the case.
They did some other paranormal experience sort of like that, and we're getting kind of on in time here, so I'll skip through some of this stuff. And I highly recommend anybody listening to this to go listen to that episode of The Black Vault. It's really interesting. But long story short, he saw like apparitions, and he saw a lot of weird stuff on the ranch, right? And then he talks about like the budget of like what they had for ATIP, which was like 22.5 million. And he goes into a little bit of detail on that. But he says that despite supposedly having all this funding, he never saw any scientists on the ranch. There were scientists involved in the project. He just never saw them on the ranch. Things like this, like the cheap equipment and that, is stuff that he talks about, like that kind of made him think that he was the one being experimented on, not the experimenter, right? Because, there was nobody stationed there who would be doing experiments. One of the experiments he talks about that had him kind of worried was a bean sprout experiment. They told him the bean sprout experiment was to kind of determine the growth rate of bean sprouts on the ranch versus like a control that was in Las Vegas. So they wanted to compare the two different bean sprouts. He found out later that this was actually a way of testing the absorption of radiation on the bean sprouts. So here he is watering these bean sprouts and taking care of them, thinking that it's some mundane experiment, when in reality they're testing some sort of radiation thing. And they never told him this. He just sort of figured it out himself, after the fact. And so, a lot what he talks about on the podcast is he's really worried about health effects of what was done to him, and that he never signed up to be experimented on, right?
Isn't that always the case, though?
Yeah, if you're in the military, I guess you get experimented on, yeah.
Yeah, take this jab. I'm not going to tell you what's in it.
Sometimes it's unaware.
So a couple times between midnight and 2 a.m., he saw an incredibly bright light. It was so bright that he could see the bones in his hand. Like when he went to cover his eyes, it like shone so bright that it like illuminated the bone structure in his hands. And even covering his eyes with his hands, he could still see the light. And he said that he could not determine a source of the light. There was just a really bright light coming from, he couldn't tell where. And it lasted generally about 5 seconds or so. And it's the brightest thing that he's ever seen.
Did he describe any heat? Did he feel any heat or anything like that?
He didn't say anything about heat. He just said that it was an incredibly bright light.
That's insane.
Right.
It's a bright ass fucking light.
Yeah, it's a really bright light. And
you think it caused damage?
That's what he's worried about. Yeah, is that it could be some long-term, and that, yeah, he talks about that on the show. Another thing he talks about is one time he had an encounter with an invisible person. So I guess him and whoever else was stationed with him, they lived in a trailer or like one of those portable housing units or something. And I guess the caretakers, there were also caretakers there that lived in the ranch house. So one time they were in the like the trailer house, and they heard someone open the outer door, and it slammed against the wall. And they heard somebody invisible who was sounded like they were wearing boots, walked through the trailer, and he could hear them and he could like see and feel the ground shifting as they walked by, because like, it's like these portable trailers with like pretty flimsy flooring and stuff, and he said that he could hear what room they were in, because I guess the different rooms had different sounds when somebody was walking through them, but they were like totally they were totally invisible. And he, at the time he thought it might be like an apparition or a ghost or something, but he thinks it was actually like a cloaking experiment, not something paranormal. So maybe like a soldier in like some kind of invisibility suit or something like that.
I
right?
don't like this either way. Like if it's supernatural, that's super creepy. Like I got like tingles, but then if it's not, and it's an invisibility cloak, I don't like that either. Yeah. I don't like either explanation.
Well, I was thinking like, well, it's bad enough that the NSA can tap into any device at any time and spy on whatever the hell you're doing. But they got actual people who can be invisible. They can just roll through your house and just like, it's just, I don't know, sir. I do not like it one bit. Not at all.
Do you guys remember there being a video of like a soldier supposedly wearing one of those? And it was like a shroud. And it came in it came in like 3 pieces. It was like a lower half for the legs, upper piece, and then, well, he was like running across the field, and I think it was in the like Middle East or whatever the hell it was. It was like rocky terrain, and like you see him peel it off his head and then hop on a tank that's like stopping and picking him up. Like,
okay, I just have one more weird experience that this fella had. One night, wolves attacked his dogs.
See, skinwalkers.
Yeah, no, this one really caught my attention because it kind of matches up with like what the Sherman saw. So one night, wolves attacked his dogs, and he had a shotgun. He said he had loaded alternating slugs and double-aught buckshot into the shotgun, and he shot at the wolves at a range of about 15 feet, and he had like a laser sight. We're talking about like a military trained guy at 15 foot with at least buckshot. He's not missing. There's no way this guy misses, right? Impossible. For somebody who did 2 tours of duty in Iraq, no, there's no way he missed, So the wolves, they just walked off. Like it was like just like what the previous encounter that we talked about was. Like it just looked like it hadn't hit them at all. Like there was no blood, no signs that the wolves were in any way incapacitated. And he went out the next day to look for signs of any wounds or blood or anything like that, and he couldn't find anything. And he said, could it be a hologram? But he said no, he didn't think it was a hologram because it was like messing with one of his dogs. Like he said it tossed one of the dogs around or something, but it clearly was not like your normal wolf, right? They had some sort of, physical interaction or something. And he like on the show, he says he's still not entirely sure if some of this stuff that happened was really paranormal or not. But, he talks about like government, experiments and stuff. So that's just a very, very brief summary of what, his experience on the ranch. And again, like I said, I think anybody listening interested in the Skinwalker should go listen to this guy. I don't know if I should believe him or not, but it's definitely highly interesting. And I'll just close off by talking about, the last thing I have to talk about is that we don't know a whole lot about OSAP or ATIP. So like OSAP is it's AAWSAP, right? And that's if you want to Google it. So one of the most interesting things we have for this is we got a memo that was sent to Senator John McCain that had just the titles and authors of some studies that were done under the program. So there were a couple of names of the studies were things like invisibility cloaking, field effects on biological tissues, advanced nuclear propulsion for manned deep space missions, pulsed high-powered microwave technology, space access, advanced space propulsion based on vacuum space-time metric engineering, traversable wormholes, stargates, and negative energy, high-frequency gravitational wave communications, and on and on and on. And this is what I'm talking about when, I have a lot more written down here, but I won't really go over them all. But this is what I mean when I was talking about that guy who gave an award for like shitty studies. Like, dude, when you look under, you just peel under the rug a little bit here, and these people were actually doing some weird stuff, and it's not all make-believe. Like, so that's what I meant, like egg on that guy's face, because most skeptics don't bother to do any sort of research. They just look at the very surface of it. But like, this is a real document. These were real studies done by real scientists, although admittedly, some of them by like Hal Puthoff and stuff, some of these are probably bullshit, but some of them are absolutely 100% legit. You can find a couple of these papers. Most of them you cannot find. This ATIP stuff or the OSAP, whichever, it's a little far afield. Like, this is a whole other episode, but I just wanted to point out that they were apparently doing real research, and they were researching things like invisibility, and it does tie into Skinwalker Ranch. And this fella on this episode of the Black Vault Radio, he thinks that some of the stuff they were experimenting on him were stuff that we're talking about in some of these papers. But if you want to read more about like OSAP and ATIP and Bigelow and, all this kind of stuff, I recommend checking out not just the Black Vault, but the drive.com, just one word, THEDRIVE.com. They have a lot of really good articles on it as well. And it's not like History Channel stuff. It's actually really well written and, really well researched. They base it on actual data, not on like a bunch of hokum and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, this one went a lot longer than I thought it would. That's about all I had for this week. You guys have anything else?
No, I did not put the lotion on the skin.
Oh boy, or it gets the hose again.
Well, the thing that drew me into this case that kind of had me on a, you talk about how you just start getting drawn in by something in the case where you should be looking at Skinwalker Ranch. But then I started reading all about like skinwalkers and the search for the skinwalker and what they are and how you call them. And I really got pulled into that. You don't like that?
No, it scares the shit out of me too. They scream for help and there's nothing wrong with them, and then you walk up and they get you.
No, it totally creeped me out.
Other skinwalker, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the water babies.
What?
Agent Kruger, were you talking about the water babies?
No.
I don't know.
I've heard of meat babies. Usually when I have a meat baby, no, shut up.
Too many babies.
No, sometimes when I have a meat baby,
give me the mic.
It usually stands for me having like either too much steak or pork or something like that. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Baby back ribs.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
I'll give you all kinds of meat babies.
I was saying.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Please, back to Agent Either.
I was saying. I think the history.
I'm so sorry.
I think the history of the Sherman Ranch starts with the legend of the Skinwalker. And I think that's where all this stuff comes from. And you start talking about the supernatural and UFOs. And I'm actually more skeptical about those things. And I'm more open-minded about skinwalkers in general. So when I was, researching this, that's the thing I was the most interested in, because I think it's the thing that I believe versus, all that stuff about UFOs and the Sherman sightings and that sort of thing. The later things that happened on the ranch, I'm more skeptical about.
I mean, I think the Ouija board is a portal. Immediately if I hear experiments with that, it's like, oh shit,
Ouija boards creep me out.
Trouble.
I don't like Ouija boards.
Fuck
Here
Ouija
we go
boards.
again.
Oh, hey, guys, next month for October, it's Halloween, guys. We got to play with the Ouija board.
I have Halloween off on vacation from the 24th off until the was like the 10th, I think, of the next month, I believe. I have that whole period off on vacation. Yeah. So
dang.
I can come up there if you want. If you guys want to have a Ouija board session, dude, wait. Ouija board tournament. Like,
hell,
you ever heard
do
of,
it.
You could come up to the Russian River. You can have some Pliny.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yes.
Now that Agent ETA is done with all that stuff, I'm going to edit out.
Yeah, probably.
I'll give my final thoughts, which is I went into this one thinking there was probably all a bunch of nonsense, but it's still sort of an interesting case to look at. But the more I looked at it, the less certain I became that it was nonsense. And was it government experiments with like invisibility suits and like drones? I didn't even talk about half of what people have reported at this place. Like the people have reported like drones and like orbs of light and just all kinds of stuff that I skipped over because, you know, we're running a little long.
Very long.
Very long, yeah. But like the more I looked into it, the less sure I became that it was all nothing. Like there does seem to be something strange going on here. It's a UFO hotbed. There's a lot of paranormal stuff. I don't know what to make of any, after looking into it, and like, I don't know what to make of any of it. After listening to this Black Vault episode where this guy who supposedly worked there, after hearing him talk, like if you take him at face value, it sounds like a government experiment to both experiment like invisibility technology and also psychological experiments on the people there. But I mean, I don't find this guy 100% credible. There's certain things about him that kind of make me think that he might have worked for the government, but is he telling a story that he's been ordered to tell, or is he telling something that's being told at face value? He mentions things like videos and photographs that are not public, so you can't really believe him until you see the stuff. It goes on and on and on. And the more I read about it, the more I realized like we'd have to do like another 5 or 10 episodes for me to actually form an opinion on this thing. But it's just a really fascinating topic that kind of surprised me at just how much depth it had. And I guess that's kind of my final thoughts. Agent Kruger, did you have any final thoughts?
I don't think I really can have one at the moment. I wasn't that prepared. I was late to the group, so I apologize. But
well, I appreciate you jumping on because I mean, you know,
yeah, I know you got work tomorrow.
Yeah, getting home from your travels from San Diego.
Yeah, just trying to squeeze everything into one. So,
oh, baby, are you ever?
Yeah, I had to lay down the noisy cricket. You know what I mean?
Wait, I heard you were over there getting your dick wet.
Yeah,
just to throw it
down
out
the noisy
there.
cricket.
Oh, dude, nice. That's all a right. Man right there, I'll tell you that much.
And on that note, thanks for listening. You can thanks for listening. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. You can we also have an email address, alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the show, you could really help us out by suggesting us to your friends and or online communities.
Keep it strange.